Hello, my name is Bertrand Bonello. I'm the director of Coma.
And my name is Gabriel. I'm from the Singapore International Film Festival's programming team. And today we have a Q&A with director Bertrand Bonello about his film Coma. And Coma is going to be featured in our undercurrent section. And that section is a showcase of filmmakers and artist filmmakers who approach film from a very different or very unique manners. Coma is part of his third film in a loose trilogy about teenagers and youngsters after Nocturama in 2016, Zombie Chow in 2019, and Coma premiered at Berlinale this year, and it won the Fipresci Award. Without further ado, I would like to welcome Bertrand here, and I'll begin with my first question. To begin, I would like to ask, how did this project come about? I mean, in some ways, we may understand the film as a product of our times, where the present is always felt in a state of suspension. Maybe you could give us an idea of why the name Coma in the first place, and why do you choose such a concept in the times that we live in?
It's many reasons for the starting of this film. One of them is I had a big film that was postponed because of pandemic and many things, and I couldn't spend the whole year without working, so I decided to do a self-produced film without asking money to anyone and just do the film. It was a special moment. We were all locked of freedom, and I needed some freedom in a way. Another reason is the prologue of Coma, the first letter to my daughter. It's a short movie that I've did before, and I had a lot of comments, very moved on that part of the film, and I decided to go a little further and to explore what could be in the head of a young girl of 18 today at these particular moments. And basically this need of freedom and this question of how a teenager could enter the world, because 18 is a special age, you know. I remember it's the moment where you enter life, and at that moment the world say to all these people, no, you stay home because it's pandemia. So how it works, and I was trying to do a kind of state of the world from her point of view, and inside of that I tried to, because of course there are a lot of dark thoughts in the film, to put some new form, new worlds, try to do a hybrid film, and try to put some humor and do something quite pop and sexy, even if it's in this head of a dark teenager.
When I wasn't ready for the start of the film, it's almost like foreboding in the tone of the voice, and it's almost like a love letter, but it's not a love letter. Like the words that you say is almost foreboding, but at the same time it's also hopeful. Like you reassure her that spring will always come after winter.
I really believe in that. I mean, everything in these letters are sincere. I believe that it's cycles, and that of course, you know, the sun rises always and the spring comes always, and even if the ecological system is a little more harder. But I wanted to say at the end of the second letter that I am very sincere. I trust this generation. I am sure they will be able to succeed in some stuff that we did not succeed in. And that's what I wanted to tell her, but tell them. I know we are leaving you something like really tough, but I'm sure you will find some solutions, because I'm sure you're more clever than where we were.
I mean, right after that sequence, not long after the prologue, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, it's like a cropped out clip of Deleuze saying, foreboding about the dangers of dreams, and in particular the dreams of others that come to be oppressive. And I felt like it's almost like a reflexive manner, I mean, from a director inserting that in, and then also reflexive in a manner as a father, also knowing that I only can know so much about my daughter's dreams. As much as I try to know, there's a limit to how much I know and how much I want to impose on my daughter, for example. So,
But of course, in the film, there is, it's my imagination of what's in her mind. She didn't tell me this is my brain. It's my projections. So it's made from the point of view of an adult guy, you know. But I wanted to play with that, and this sentence that comes from Gilles Deleuze: "Never enter the dream of someone else, even if it's a lovely young girl." I really love this sentence, because I say to myself, "Okay, I'm going to disobey. I'm going to disobey and enter her mind." You know.
I wasn't ready for that. I mean, immediately after that, it gets wackier in terms of the imagination. After that, it's the Barbie sequence, and it's almost the interior space of her bedroom. One more thing I would like to ask is also why the inclusion of the revelator as a toy, and then to link it with the idea of free will. So I got that sense that, like, because she never loses, there's nothing left to wager, and then in my view, it's like almost like like there's no wage to the game, and it feels like almost she's like trying to find meaning in the game of life, maybe.
The concept of free will is something that has always obsessed me, and I liked the idea of doing it with a small game, just, you know, small as a packet of cigarettes, something really stupid. But this thing stupid in plastic that costs like €4 gives birth to like big philosophical questions, and I like the mix of the two.
And what did in terms of the dream states, there's like animation, there's also CCTV footage and all that. What was your approaching like the so-called cinematic medium, playing around with animation and all that? Yeah.
Well, there are two things. There are narrative possibilities and cinematic mediums. In terms of cinema, I really like the idea of doing something very hybrid, to mix different textures, different worlds, and to see how they work together, you know. And that could be made possible because of this sentence: never enter, you know, the dreams of someone else, because dreams give birth to all this kind of, you know, unstructured stuff, and then you put them together in the editing room. And in terms of narrative possibilities, it opened me a lot of things. For example, the animation, the words I put into the little dolls, or even the girl, Patricia Coma, that does her YouTube channel. You can be very, very first degree, you know. And I could put in the mouth of the dolls some sentences, words, or scenes that you cannot put with real actors, because there will be like too much. But here it works. And even in terms of humor, you know, I could, for example, when one of the dolls starts to quote the tweets of Donald Trump, you cannot do that with a human, you know. It has to. So it allowed me a lot of freedom in terms of narrative possibilities.
Some people may classify this film as, or maybe it's like a COVID film or the lockdown film, which we start to see a lot of films coming out from the past 2 years. How much of it do you agree, or is it something which, in my personal view, is deeper than that, than just a lockdown film, for example? Yeah.
No, I totally agree. I mean, COVID's just an excuse, in fact. You know, it's just, of course, it's quoted in the film. They speak of it like a couple of times, but it's not the subject. You know, it was just the environment, but it's not the subject. I could have done the same film even if it was not the pandemic. It's just a look on the general world, and from the point of view of someone that is entering the world. It's really not the subject.
Yeah, I think like a lot of the youth in this generation, almost the COVID generation, they realize that they have not seen their friends for 2 years or 3 years because of COVID, and it feels that like, their youth has been robbed by this virus.
When I gave the script to the young actress, the first thing she told me, she said, "I understand every word of the script, because they stole 1 year of my life." And she started to cry, because for me, at my age, 1 year of my life is not that much, but for them, it's huge, you know, and it's very important here.
Yeah. It's like most like when you turn 18, like you mentioned, it's a very critical stage in your life. And maybe for the experience of time for someone older compared to someone younger, it's just a different level of importance actually. Yeah.
Well, the film is going to be released in France like in 10 days. So I'm starting to do like some promotion and some public screenings. And I really can see at the end when during the Q&As, it's only the young people that ask questions or that really understand the film and stuff like that. And I'm really pleased with that, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure the world that you created is entirely relatable to the much older generation who
I don't think
approach.
so, yeah.
Yeah. When we had students attending school on Zoom, for example, or meeting friends on Zoom, I mean, these are stuff that I think the younger generation has a very strong angst about. Let me know one more question. I mean, in Nocturama and in your short film, Sarah Winchester, Phantom Opera, I mean, the idea of interior spaces play a very crucial point of in both films and the psyche of the characters. So in Coma, perhaps it's a bit more pronounced. It's almost claustrophobic in some manner. And then there's also the digital interior. There's almost like the Zoom backgrounds, and the YouTube website with Patricia Coma and all that. There's this interface that enters the interior of the room. How do you approach like digital formats and the interior?
Um, I think I like the idea of creating a world inside the world. So in Nocturama, for example, like the mall, the big store is a world inside the world. In Sarah Winchester, same. You have no windows that you can look at the exterior. It's just, and in a way, digital. It's the same thing. You think you can have access to everything, but in fact, you're just watching the small screen, and it's a world inside the world. And I like to work to create these worlds, to work on them.
How much of the research process or like conceptualizing this film did you involve your daughter in, or was it something they kept out of the dark and then you send this love letter to them?
I didn't need to involve her because I have her in front of my eyes every day. So I'm just observing and then doing my proper interpretation. I mean, of course, if she sees the film, she's going to say, I am not thinking this way, but it's a feature, so it's my version of that.
But what was her initial reactions after watching the final cut?
I think she was a little shy because there is 2 letters addressed to her. So to see on a big screen something say Anna, blah, 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 blah. She was a little shy of that. But she really enjoyed the pop side of the film and the humor in it and the dark humor. And for example, there is a lot about serial killers in the film. And I didn't invent that. I mean, she and her friends, girlfriends, really obsessed with serial killers. They watch like all the docudramas on Netflix. They know all the name, the dates, and everything. I don't know why, but it's a reality.
I wanted to ask you about that weird fascination, teenage girls and serial killers. It's pretty weird. And then maybe spoilers. There's also your intervention in one of the girls' rooms where there's someone intervenes and then everyone carry on like normally, like almost like a numbness to it. Yeah, maybe I'll just ask a few final questions. I want to ask about the final sequence. I mean, the first prologue is almost like a love letter, very touchingly written love letter, and then at the end, it's almost an apocalyptic anthropocentric collapse in the world that it's like almost disaster after disaster.
I tried to make a kind of conclusion, said, okay, we're in a special moment between life and death, between night and day, something, but I really believe that you will find the light at the end of the tunnel, because I really do. I mean, I can see how different this generation is thinking. Because, for example, for me, I've seen, I've had many hopes about the world when I was 18, and then day after day, they're, getting like smaller. But for them, she's 18. So since she's born, she hears about unemployment, terrorism, ecological problem, economical problem, stuff like that, and they have to find their way inside the fall of the world, and they're finding some way of thinking that we didn't have. That's why I believe they will find a new way of thinking and living.
I mean, it's like a very hopeful note. I mean, right now, there's always talk about leaving behind a world that is on a path of irreversible doom. And it's very rare you see, especially in art, where people remain hopeful, at least for something a solution will come out and something better, a spring will come, in your words. And yeah, maybe one last question to end off this Q&A is simply, what are you working on? I heard it's exciting things.
I finished like a few days ago a big film, a big feature with Léa Seydoux and George McKay, British actor, which is a kind of melodrama in 3 periods: 1910, 2014, and 2044. So it's a melodrama mixing science fiction with a part which is a slasher. It's going to be a weird film, but I'm very excited. Yes, I just started the editing like three days ago.
Yeah, really exciting stuff. Thank you for spending your morning with us and for this quick Q&A. Yeah, and thank you to the audiences for spending your time with us, with Bertrand, and we'll see you at the festival.
Thank you very much. Have a good edition. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye.